name is Jean Gallagher, and welcome to the second show of Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better, where we explore the importance of the outdoors and maintaining life balance. Through this series, we'll be talking with women business owners and understanding their journey. Today, I'm excited to introduce to you Becky Haskell, co-owner of Scenic Vows, an adventure elopement. I always struggle with that word. Elopement photography team. She grew up on the East Coast, like me, and has always loved the outdoors. In 2009, she worked for Yosemite National Park for a summer, and her life was changed forever. She currently lives in her converted Sprinter van. So there's going to be some jealousy here too in this conversation with her partner, Brian. And together they travel the world, exploring new places and learning about new cultures and enjoying the wilderness. Scenic Vows was created as a way to connect back to the outdoors and share that connection with couples looking to elope. Hi, Becky.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. Thanks for being here. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so before we start on your information, we have to do this little quick.
The other competitor,
hey, I'm from the
I don't know if I should say his name yet. Am I allowed? You can. All right.
Because you always got to talk about those roots. So how'd you end up out on the west side?
Oh, good question. I grew up in Massachusetts, lived there until I was 18, and then was like, I got to get out of here. So I headed south for college. And in my junior year, a friend of mine said, hey, do you want to go work in Yosemite for the summer? I said, yeah, I do. So we road tripped cross country and spent 4 or 5 months in Yosemite working in the valley, loving it, loving exploring the West Coast. Then I came back to graduate, and after that, just headed back out west. I couldn't stay away.
That's awesome. Yeah. There's such a difference between, it's funny because there's such a difference between the East Coast and the West Coast, but there's a lot of similarities. And where you are, especially down there on the coast where you are today, there's so many similarities between the coast of California and the coast of New England.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's a good point. I don't really ever put them together, but yeah, very true.
Except for the weather.
Yeah.
There's that. So tell us a little bit about Scenic Vows, or a lot of it about Scenic Vows, and how it started and what you do. And
yeah, cool. So Scenic Vows is, like you said, an adventure elopement photography team. And what does that mean? Adventure elopements have taken on this kind of new stigma in the wedding industry, where elopements used to mean running away in secret and not telling anyone and going to Vegas. Now instead it has more of a do what you want to do for your wedding day idea behind it. It's more about creating a really intentional day that is special to you and your partner, and it's doing exactly what you want to do and not letting anyone tell you have to do this or you have to do that.
I was looking at your Instagram account, and that's exactly what it looked like too. And I was really surprised because I had that, oh, let's just secretly take off. And the pictures are stunning. And it just really looked like everybody was having a wonderful time.
Yeah, it's been incredible hearing these ideas that couples have and then being able to make it come true and kind of work with them to really find out what they want to do for their day and things that they love doing together that are special to them. And then coming up with a plan for them and working out all the logistics and then capturing the whole day of their elopement. It's really special.
So do they bring family members with them, or is it truly just them?
Yeah, great question. So typically for our elopements, we work with up to 10 people. So we've had couples invite their parents, siblings, parents, like aunts and uncles. But yeah, we usually stay in that 10 people max area. It just makes it easier for if you want to do more of a backpacking or do somewhere that's not right off the side of the road. If you want to go a bit further, it's easier with 10 people than like 30 people.
So you're not driving around in the car, everybody's all dressed up and they go, oh, wait, here.
Yeah, not usually, no.
Is there a typical example, or?
So that's really hard to say because they're all so different, really depending on the couple and what they want for their day. Usually we have a couple different package options, so it's just dependent on how many hours they want covered for their day. But usually it's, a couple different locations and a couple of different activities. And I mean, that can range from backpacking, hiking to kayaking, canoeing, helicopter ride, hot air balloon ride. I mean, it can really
Really?
be anything. Yeah.
Wow.
Anything that they're imagining. And then we kind of work off of that and just add stuff, take stuff away. It's really just kind of whatever the couple wants.
So the logistics of that, if there's really something out there, that must be challenging or difficult to schedule, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I mean, there's so much that goes into it besides just photography. Obviously, we're there to take awesome photos and make sure you have those memories, and they're hanging in your home and you remember it forever. But we're also there to help with all of the logistics and the planning.
Mhm.
So we really kind of act as guides in a way where we're helping to supply the information and those contacts for that helicopter ride and all of that stuff. We love digging in and doing the planning side of it as well. It's been really fun to make connections with other vendors like hair and makeup and florists,
Mhm.
and kind of see this whole vision come together with the help of other people as well.
So it really is so much more than just showing up and taking pictures.
Yes, definitely. And that's what we want to encourage too. Like people do still have that mindset that elopement is like, oh, let's just go to the courthouse and then take some pictures. It
Mhm.
doesn't have to be that, which is what's really cool. Again, this term adventure elopement has this stigma kind of being, it has to be a backpacking trip and you have to hike 12 miles. And that's not how we see it. We're all about like how the couple defines adventure and what that means to them. Because to me, a bike ride can be an adventure. It really depends on your mindset and the way you look at things and the way you define adventure. So we're kind of inclusive for all. We're not saying you have to do some crazy backpacking trip. If you want
So you're
to,
not
sure,
gonna
that's
bungee
great.
cord off of something else to make it the right thing, yeah.
Yep.
So how did it all start?
Yeah, so a couple years ago, my partner Brian and I were both working jobs in cities. He was working in commercial photography, working for big name brands, and I was working as a substitute teacher. And we both realized we weren't spending a lot of time in the outdoors.
Mhm.
Um, and we wanted to change that. We wanted to be able to get back into nature and to be able to show people and encourage people to also be out in nature. So we came up with Scenic Vows. We wanted it to be a way to connect back to the wilderness, connect back to nature, and like I said, be kind of a guide or just an inspiration and encouragement to couples to really get out and enjoy and explore.
Were there many other people doing this, or was this I had honestly never heard of this until we talked.
Yeah, it's funny because being in the industry, I can think of like hundreds,
Mhm.
thousands of people that are doing it. However, there have been a handful of really leaders, I guess that you could say, in the industry that started out back in 2015 with this idea of adventure elopements, and they've kind of blown up in the industry. And then, especially after last year with COVID, people couldn't have
Oh,
large weddings. And they were like, oh, well, yeah, let's pivot. And I like this idea of being outside and it just being us and us doing what we really want to do instead of inviting the third cousin we never talked to, like it got to be much more intimate and personable. Um, yeah, so it's pretty cool being in this kind of newer industry that's
mhm.
sort of starting to take off a lot.
And you're primarily in Yosemite for this, yes?
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time in Yosemite and the surrounding areas, Mammoth and Bishop,
Mhm.
um, and we love it. We it's our second home for sure. Our dream with Scenic Vows is to take it everywhere. We're hoping to go to Montana this summer,
Mhm.
and shoot some elopements there, and then, I mean, ideally, we'd love to go to New Zealand and do work there, and Iceland, and go international with it.
That would be phenomenal. Really, what a great plan. So tell me a little bit about your background in Yosemite, because I think that we had talked a little bit about this before in your experience there, and I'd like to touch on that. And then also what the community is like there and how it's changed over time.
Yeah, sure. So my first experience with Yosemite, like I said, was in 2009. I went out for a summer and just, fell in love with the community there, the mountains, the areas surrounding Yosemite, California in general. It just, stole my heart for sure. My partner Brian had a similar experience. He went out, I don't remember what year, but it was quite a while ago. He went out for a summer and then ended up just staying summer after summer. And then it turned into not just seasonal jobs, and it was year-round work. And he ended up staying for about 12 years. So we both definitely have that connection to Yosemite. And when we started Scenic Vows, since we were there so much, a lot of our work just started coming from there, which is amazing because it gives us an excuse and a reason to stay around and keep going back. I feel like things have changed a lot in the park over the years. Some good changes, some bad changes. The company switched hands after I stopped working there. And just hearing from friends that still work there, it's definitely been a change.
And there's been such a push for everyone to be outdoors, which there's nothing wrong with that, because that's just internally so important to me as well. But I've noticed too, just the volume of people and how it really affects the outdoors, and whether it happens to be the flora or fauna, and how important things like leave no trace are, and to be able to still have these resources so that we can all use them for years to come, but also take care of them along the way. And I think that you did a lot of work with leave no trace and talking to people about that as well. And maybe let's touch on that for just a minute, because maybe a lot of people out there aren't familiar with what leave no trace really is. And if you're spending any time in the outdoors, even if it's in your backyard, I think it's important to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. Leave no trace has been huge in our lives, since we started being outdoors, and even more now that we have a business. It's really important to us to educate people and encourage people to continue going outside, but to remember where they are and how they can take care of that space. For those who don't know, leave no trace is a series of principles about exactly that, leaving no trace when you're outside in the wilderness and leaving things how you found it or better. So it's been a huge thing with our couples. We love, educating them and making them aware if they're not. And also other photographers. There's, a lot of people that come into the park that have never been, don't necessarily spend that much time outside or in national parks, and just aren't aware of how important leave no trace is. So it's been great to be able to continue that education for people. One really cool thing that Yosemite does is their yearly or annual facelift, which is a cleanup that they do every fall, kind of after the busy season dies off. We've been in the park the last 3 years for facelift, and Brian had been there a few years before that. It's a week-long cleanup where volunteers come in and just pick up trash around the valley. In the high country, anywhere people can go, really, they're picking up trash. So people come from overseas, it's little kids, it's elderly people. It's an awesome event that they put on. They do like raffles at the end of the day. So lots of big name brands are donating gear and supplies and stuff so that people can win, as kind of a push to get people to pick up more trash. We love being there for that. It's a great community, and everyone's there doing the same thing. And we always say this is our backyard. Like, we want it to look nice and we want it to stay nice for as long as we can.
So what's a good resource to find out information on the week?
The Yosemite Park Service puts out information on it. I think they've already started talking about it either on their Instagram or their website. And then as it gets closer to the event, they'll roll out like what's happening that day, and they have different speakers come and all that stuff. I can find the website for you if you want to post it.
Yeah,
later.
we can post that, definitely post that later. And then we can also post the Leave No Trace link too, because that organization is really, really important to the livelihood of the outdoors. And I listened to a podcast a few weeks ago on Backpacker Radio, so shout out to them. And I'm going to mess up this guy's name. Ben Lawton, I think his last name was. He's the education director for, and don't quote me, I could be wrong, could have that exact title wrong, but for Leave No Trace. And, I thought I was fairly educated, and listening to that, I mean, there's so much information that everybody needs to learn.
Yes, definitely. We just did a course last year for Leave No Trace photography awareness.
Oh, wow.
We are a Leave No Trace aware photographer, which, it was a great information, some that we knew and some that we didn't know. So I feel like I'm always learning more about Leave No Trace and, what you should do in certain situations and what you shouldn't do. So always learning.
Yeah, and it's not just the high Sierras too, or the backcountry, it's the local trails. And I've noticed that even on the local trails here in town through the state recreational areas, that it's messy.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
I know. I think
even things like orange peels, because people think, well, an orange peel is natural, so it's okay to go on the ground, but there's no orange tree next to where that orange peel was dropped. It doesn't belong there. Yeah.
I think that's one of the pieces of trash or whatever that Brian sees that makes him the most angry. Orange peels, there's orange peels. But the cool thing about Facelift this past year, since they weren't having everyone join together in Yosemite, they did like a virtual facelift. So they were encouraging everyone to pick up trash in their local areas.
Oh, wow.
Which was really neat. I mean, I think because Yosemite wasn't as busy last year due to COVID restrictions, it didn't need as much cleanup there. I mean, sure, it still needed some, and we were there and were able to go around the valley. But for them to encourage people to clean up in their local areas, trails and crags and everything was really cool to see.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. So we'll definitely put a link to that as well, because anything that we can do to make people know or help people know about that is really great. So you had mentioned just the transition between the regular job, if you will, and the needing to get outside. And how do you think that changed you?
I mean, I know for me, my mental status, my mood, everything improves when I'm outdoors and active and in fresh air and nature. So I know for me personally, that changes dramatically. I think it affects a lot of people that way. And so I know we talked earlier about 2020 and how it was tough, but it also like pushed me to be outside a lot, because I knew like mentally I needed to be outside and I needed to be in nature and getting out and doing stuff that was good for me.
Yeah, I as well. And even it was a little bit more challenging to do that, but just the fresh air and getting out of the four walls was really important. So let's talk about a different four walls, the four walls that have wheels under them.
Yeah.
So van life. So how did that happen? How does that work? And all of that.
So I was, after I graduated college and a few years in between, I was living overseas for a few years. Brian and I had met just before I left, and while I was away, he bought a van and built it, and it's beautiful. He did a great job. And when I returned, he pretty much said, "Hey, do you want to move into my van with me?"
That's awesome.
So I moved in, and I guess it's been about 3 years now, off and on, that we've been doing van life. We really love it. It's definitely not for everyone, and it takes a certain type of person to live in 100 square feet with your partner. But it's been awesome for us and kind of opened up a lot of opportunities to explore and adventure and really get to see these places in depth versus like just staying at a hotel or an Airbnb.
it makes a difference. So we have a Sprinter van, but everybody that knows me knows that I'm a pretend minimalist because we have too much stuff. It's hard to haul the motorcycles and the van and the paddle boards and all those things.
The toys.
Which
is
it's
always the toys.
It's always the toys, right? And the dog.
Yeah.
So, but we actually haul the Airstream with the Sprinter. But just being able to get to be out and not being in a hotel and going someplace and being outside, there's such a difference. So I really would like to be more than a pretend minimalist, but I'm super challenged. I need Marie Kondo or something times 20.
Yeah, it's tough. We've been living in an apartment for the winter and are heading back into the van soon. And I'm looking around at all this stuff we've accumulated being here for like 3 months. So yeah, it's definitely, once you move out of the van, it's very easy to collect stuff again. But yeah, it's been fun, and it does, we like that it cuts down on stuff, and we're trying to be better about being sustainable and cutting down on our carbon footprint, and hoping that by living van life, that's doing some of that.
So when you leave where you are and you head out to Montana first, or are you swinging through Yosemite?
Yosemite first. We have a couple elopements coming up, so
it's on the way, or
yeah, right. Always on the way.
So what's life like in the van? What is it like to be able to be that mobile? Or
it's been great. We love it. It's, we've gotten in a groove with it for sure. And you have to find that groove again once you've been out of it. I saw friends of mine recently moved into the van and were talking about how difficult it was. And I said, it has different challenges that owning a house or renting a house does, but it's the same kind, the sink breaks, or, the stove isn't working. It's still those day-to-day bothersome things that come up. But yeah, it's given us, like I said, so much opportunity to really just explore. We've found a lot of places throughout California that we go back to because they're amazing.
What are some of your favorite places?
We were down in San Diego not that long ago, and just being on the coast right there is incredible. The beach there is amazing. Obviously Yosemite, also up in Oregon, Cape Kiwanda is like one of our favorite areas. And I feel like all of that we could have done living in a house or whatever, but there's something different about being able to see it all from the van, and being able to stay there for a few days right there on the beach, or it's just has more intimacy and adventure to it, I guess.
It plugs you in.
Yes.
It definitely plugs you in. And then you have the privilege to be able to still work as long as there's cell reception.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's a challenge, but to be able to still work and plan and get the job done, if you will.
Yeah.
And still enjoy the outside. And
yes. Yeah, exactly. Have you been to the Alabama Hills?
No, I haven't. I don't think I have. Where is that?
It's on the east side by Lone Pine.
Oh, okay. No, I haven't.
It's such a bizarre, awesome area. Just like giant boulders in the middle of nowhere, no cell service. And I mean, it's just a dream for like mountain biking and dirt biking and camping and hiking. You've got Mount Whitney in the background, just kind of towering over you. It's incredible. Yeah. So put it on your list.
It'll definitely go on the list. So you'll be in Yosemite so you have weddings set up for Yosemite. And then are you booking for Montana too? Or
yes, yeah, that's what we're doing now.
Is that challenging if you have so many contacts in Yosemite for doing adventure things? How do you do that prep for Montana?
Yeah, so a lot of it we've spent time in Montana, so we have like places that we've been to already that we loved. And then a lot of it's just getting information from other vendors, reaching out to other photographers that are willing to share their inside spots, or kind of just doing Google researches and getting on Google Earth and honing in on different locations and finding those, glacier lakes in the middle of nowhere, Colorado. And
wow.
yeah, it ties back into the whole planning and logistics thing. It's really something that we've fallen in love with doing also. It's fun to be able to just find these spots and be able to share them with couples. So
yeah. So do you have oh, well, let me ask you a question first. Sorry, I had two thoughts going through my head at the same time.
Okay.
So do you see a difference in when you meet with couples and they think, oh, this is a great idea, to the process and when it's completed? Is there just there has to be some sort of even a difference in their relationship from going through this process? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, for sure. I think like I said, I think there's still this idea that it's like, well, let's just go somewhere and get married and take snaps and pictures real quick. And so, we meet with them on the phone or in person if COVID wasn't a thing, and get to know each other and really just, have them pour out every vision and idea that they're having, and working with them through the process. And then, after their elopement day, hearing, wow, that was way better than we ever imagined it could be. Like we thought we were just going to go show up and take some quick photos. And instead it was this like whole day awesome experience, not just like a quick photo shoot. It's really more of an experience than it is anything else. It's an adventure, and
while they had the experience, they haven't just happened to get married.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they get to say their vows and promise their lives to each other in this awesome spot.
Yeah. And so if there's anybody listening out there that has any questions for Becky, you can reach us at 323-580-5755. Feel free to call in and we can answer those questions while we're still here too.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah. So what's been your most exciting event?
Well, it's hard because all of our Yosemite elopements so far have been so different. We had one couple, they had lived in Yosemite or lived in California before in a Volkswagen VW bus.
Mm-hmm.
And so for their elopement, they were coming out and doing a week-long road trip in a rented VW bus. And so they had that in the park for the photos. And it was just a fun, like, prop to add into the photos and the day. And it meant so much to them that it was, it needed to be in the pictures because that was
Mm-hmm.
such a big part of their life. So stuff like that is really fun. We've had kids involved, which
Mm-hmm.
we're not always like big kid people, but having them be there on elopements or weddings can really add like a fun dynamic to things.
Mm-hmm.
We had one little boy sing at the ceremony. He sang "All You Need Is Love" by the Beatles, and it's
my word,
everybody's just crying. So yeah, we have some coming up that we're really excited about. We have one in Big Sur this weekend that's
mm-hmm.
just a couple and their close friend officiating, which we're pumped about. And then I think honestly, the ones that we really get excited about the most is when they're like, you guys are the experts. We trust you.
Mm-hmm.
Like we'll do what you think is best. Because
Wow.
that's, because that's huge. You're like, oh
Yeah.
gosh, so much pressure.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But, they're just down to have an adventure. They're so in love. They don't really care where they're going to be. They just want it to be somewhere cool. They want to have great photos and they want to have a great time. And, that's fun because then we can be like, oh, this is great. We have all these ideas. So it's fun.
No, that's amazing. So where were you guys 37 years ago? Because I think I want to redo this again.
We do vow renewals. You could do a 37-year vow renewal.
That's amazing. So what do you ever, have there been any stories of this isn't going to go well, but all of a sudden it just turns perfect?
Yes, especially last year. We had numerous postponements, and then with fire season, it was like touch and go there for a while. One couple was on their plan C. They had already canceled plan A and plan B. Plan C was late September in Yosemite. during fire season. The park had been closed for the whole week leading up to their elopement day.
Oh my.
And we didn't think it was going to happen. Like, we just thought the park was not going to open. But it happened. The park opened Friday afternoon. Their elopement was Saturday morning. We had blue skies. The smoke cleared. Yeah, it was.
That's a miracle, because last year the smoke was so thick.
Yeah, it was bad. And I mean, that whole week it was, not healthy to be there. And then, yeah, it cleared, and we were all just completely in awe and amazed. And yeah, it was a beautiful day. The weather was perfect. It was incredible.
Wow, that's amazing. So do you have a favorite location, or do you have a favorite, I don't know if type is the right word?
I think we've done a lot at like Taft Point and Glacier Point, and those locations are incredibly breathtaking, and super popular, because that's what you find when you Google like Yosemite wedding or elopement. We're really excited this year to kind of push for more backpacking and hiking elopements. After living in the park for as long as we did, there's so much in the high country and outside of the valley that's incredible. So yeah, we're excited to kind of like push a little more that way, and pull out those hikers and see, who's out there who's excited to do that and do some overnight backpacking trips.
That brings a different piece of logistics to it too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, definitely. We have a couple that was supposed to come this year, and they're coming from the UK, so they aren't coming anymore this year. It's postponed until next year. But they're doing an overnight backpacking trip, and we're gonna hike up 4 Mile and camp up there, and then have their ceremony, and then hike back down the next day. So we're excited about that, and yeah, looking forward to more like that.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you said that the plan is eventually working into international or other areas. Yeah. And what would be your ideal? Where do you see yourself maybe next year or a couple of years down the road?
Yeah. So as much as we love the flexibility of travel with the van, it would be nice to have more of a travel schedule kind of set up. Ideally, we would love to be in Yosemite in the spring, and then possibly Montana or Alaska in the summer, and then like the Pacific Northwest in the fall. So we're kind of pushing and setting things up like that this year, in hopes that next year it'll just kind of flow that way. Obviously, with some, spontaneous trips here and there. But yeah, and then eventually we both have visited New Zealand, and we're taken aback by it. It's a beautiful country. So we would love to get to New Zealand and photograph elopements there. But we also have a huge, long running list of other countries we want to visit and photograph in as well. So yeah, I lived in Thailand for 2 years, and so like Southeast Asia definitely has a soft spot for me. And I'd love to get back there and kind of do something there as well. But yeah, so that's kind of a loose plan, is like the Yosemite, Montana, Pacific Northwest, and then Alaska too. So
that's fantastic. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Now, is there anything that I haven't asked you that we should cover? What's on your list?
I feel like we covered a lot of what was on my list.
Good. Because we didn't plan it.
No, I know that flowed really well. Yeah. No, I think we covered everything.
That's fantastic. I want to thank you so much for being here, and tell everybody how they can get in touch with you. We'll make sure we put your contact information in the show notes too, but tell us how to find you.
Yeah, sure. So again, our business is Scenic Vows, just like it sounds. So our website is www.scenicvows.com. And then on Instagram or Facebook, it's at Scenic Vows. And then good phone number if you want to just be direct and call, 704 380-1474.
And you are taking bookings for this coming year?
Yep. This year and into next year as well.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you so much for spending the time with me today. And it's been really, really wonderful talking with you and learning about your business. So thanks so much and best of luck.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi, Jean.
How are you?
I am just so excited to be here today.
It's good to see you. I feel like we haven't talked in a while too. So this is good.
It's great to be here with you too. And you know what we're going to talk about today on Rising Up is playfulness. I think, I just get this feeling that we could all use a little playfulness in the world today. And playfulness and nature are, for me, go hand in hand. And, I recognize that not everybody spent their childhood out in the woods running around. But for those of us who lived in small town or rural or just had woods nearby in the city or whatever, that can be just a treasured memory. And so what I want to realize is that, we understand that nature has a positive effect on us. It helps us, ground. It helps us to open up to new possibilities. It brings us all this positive energy. So my invitation for everybody today is think about how you could invite some playfulness and nature into your life. So I started thinking about and making a list of ways that I have enjoyed playfulness in nature and the things I used to do as a kid that really brought me a lot of fun. So one of the things was simply walking around looking for treasures. So a treasure might be an acorn cap. A treasure might be a beautiful leaf. A treasure might be a gorgeous rock. Any of those things. I was lucky enough to live near woods with a creek running through it. And so we also looked for salamanders and crawdads under rocks, and so you have to be careful these days about habitat and not disturbing too much habitat. But what can we go out and look for? Just have a little treasure hunt, right? Just walk out in your yard and have a treasure hunt. What flower, what leaf, what treasure can you find outside? The other one that we did was bring those treasures back inside and do things with them, create with them, crafts with them. One of my favorites was to find leaves and bring them in and put a piece of paper over them and use a crayon or a pencil. Remember that? That can be just a fun thing to do, and put it in your office and let it remind you all day long about the amazing gifts of nature and help you plug into those during your workday. So what kind of playfulness can there be out in the world of nature for you? And how can you just take a break today and have a little playfulness out in nature and let that allow you to just rise up a little today? So that's my message for you, Jean. I hope everybody goes and has some fun in nature this week.
That's wonderful. Treasure hunting is one of our favorites. And I'll just have to add one thing. The family joke is that my daughter-in-law is a great treasure hunter, and we love to go tide pooling and just look and see what's around. And bringing rocks home is, even though leave no traces, you're not supposed to, is kind of fun. And so the joke is she finds these big rocks and she hands them to my son and says, "Here, you carry this."
Right. The log.
Will it fit in the backpack? Can I take it home?
Yeah. That's great. I love it. We had a tree cut down in our backyard and they were going to charge us to haul it away. And we were like, no, just cut it up. And they cut it up into about 3 foot tall cylinders. And so for years we had these seats in the backyard that were the cut up tree. And so we used to have all kinds of games. The kids would run and jump over the tree stumps and we would sit around them, and it was just a wonderful thing. So tree stumps, limbs, sticks, all of it. Yeah. Let's go have some fun with it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Lynn. Very much. It's great to see you.
Good to see you too, Jean.